Well, hello everybody. I know it's been a long time, and thank you for all you guys who are kind of concerned. Nothing to worry about. Usually, I can do a lot of videos in Jan, Feb, and March because I tend to not have as much work going on with with writing and everything. But then it gets really manic, and it's just so exhausting trying to keep on top of the writing and also, various other kind of astrological commitments. And because you kind of, you know, it's costs are going up so dramatically, it's more hours that you have to put in to just kind of keep on top of things, and therefore the channel gets neglected. But because it's an election, I'm making sure I get a time to talk to you guys about these sort of things. And to recap, I thought this was an absolutely fantastic map. It shows you all the constituencies. It's called Map Room. That's the website, and it's called Election Map. And it's quite crazy how many constituencies. But if you're really interested in knowing all the constituents, because sometimes on the night, if you're interested in watching the election through the night, which I will be, even though I'm not invested in it in that way because I can see which way it's going, I still like to watch. And some of the constituencies think like, oh, where the hell is that? But this map helps you find out. So let's do some predictions. Now, as you will know, a long time ago, I've done two sort of Nigel Farage charts, and in both of them I said he would eventually become an MP. In the last one I did, I said that at the next election he would be an MP. Now, I was kind of confused because at the beginning of this campaign, it was like, no, he's just going to be the leader of the party kind of thing, but he's not going to be an MP. And then he announced he was running in Clacton. And as you know, there's been a great response. He's also done really well with the debates because of all these people. You've got these shouty women who a lot of people are going to look at and have very little respect for. They're either kind of chavvy or too mumsy or too matronly in case of Mordaunt, or too woke, and it just turns people off. And he has the ability, like Trump does, to speak straightforwardly about issues that actually count and are clear cut. It's all very well discussing issues that are incredibly vague and hard to define, or that are just kind of a mishmash of aspirational things, but he knows how to nail it down on core issues that people can relate to, and obviously people like his straight talking, straightforward Aries approach. Okay, let's have a look at this constituency map. So in terms of predictions, Labour are going to romp home. However, the question mark is, how many seats will the Tories lose, and how many seats can Reform win? Now, obviously, Reform are doing very well in the polls, but for a smaller party, it's extremely difficult for them to translate that percentage in the polls into actual seats. Now, the most based constituency in the whole country seems to be Rochdale, because while George Galloway is definitely going to win there, and remember when I did his chart, I did make a prediction that he would win his seat in the general election, and he's highly engaged. So I definitely think he's going to win his seat. And the second party in Rochdale will be Reform. So between George Galloway and Reform, they're 50% of the vote in Rochdale, which is incredible. I think they're doing really well in that constituency. And I can't understand why they're getting it there, but they're not getting it in other parts of the country. Now, Nigel Farage will win his seat in Clacton. It's the one surefire seat for Reform. However, I know they're also going, Reform also really strong in some of these areas like Great Yarmouth and some of the Kent areas, but it doesn't look from the polling like they can make it. Right, so I think we may end up with only Galloway and Farage as other candidates, maybe one other Reform. I've looked through the George Galloway's candidates in all the seats where they are standing. They're not polling particularly well. Now, you can't rely on polling. Also, a lot of people won't necessarily tell the pollsters what they want to hear, and polling can be manipulated. So we understand it's not necessarily accurate because they like to poll to demoralize. So they would definitely play down the position of Reform or Galloway's partner to put people off voting for them, because people might then revert to the least worst option scenario. However, in this particular I'll have to find the link of it and put it on here for you to look in case you're interested in. You put in the postcode of an of every single constituency, or of a spot in every single constituency, and they'll give you the exact breakdown of percentage. Now, I think they're less likely to manipulate something like that because only a very small amount of people would take such a close interest, right? So I'd say those might be quite accurate. What they're telling me is the Lib Dems are going to pick up quite a few seats down in this region. Jacob Rees-Mogg will probably lose his seat. However, this thing that I looked at says Rishi Sunak will probably keep his seat. Grant Shapps is losing his seat, definitely, and so is Oliver Dowden, definitely losing his seat, so you might be interested in that. So in this kind of area down Somerset, Devon, Dorset, people are going to be heading off to the Lib Dems. In this area of the country, which is a Tory stronghold, Lincolnshire and all that, they are edging towards Labour. Warwickshire, Kenilworth and Southam pretty much going Labour. Stratford-on-Avon district over here will probably stay Conservative. Quite a lot of the Cotswoldsy areas are going to stay Conservative. So the areas where the Conservatives are definitely clinging on. I'd say they'll be wiped out in London, Watford. All these areas in the southeast look like they're edging towards Labour. Obviously in the northern areas as well, apart from possibly right up north here, in these sort of farming areas, the Conservatives may hold on. Didn't check Penny Morden's seat, but definitely ones Grant Shapps, Rees-Mogg, Oliver Dowden definitely look like they'll be losing their seats. So what have we got? It doesn't look like Reform are polling between 10% to 15%. In the strongest constituencies, they're just edging up towards 20%. But nowhere other than Clacton have they got enough to win a seat. Nowhere that I've uncovered. And the same for Galloway's party. Only he's managing to make a difference in Rochdale. Very difficult in the other areas. If you look back to the last time we had Pluto in aspect to Jupiter, which right now, as you know, during this election, we've got Pluto in Aquarius opposing the UK's Jupiter in Leo. Yeah, that is right. Just checking. The last time that happened was 1983, when Margaret Thatcher got a very, very strong majority against, I think it was Michael Foot that time. So we're expecting a pretty strong, solid majority, but the Conservatives will probably get over the mark of the 100 seats. That's what I'm thinking. Now, the main thing I'm noticing in the stats for each constituency is Nigel Farage is mainly taking votes off the Conservatives. Now, George Galloway tweeted that for every one vote Nigel Farage's party is taking off the Conservatives, he's taking 2 off Labour, but that's not what I'm seeing. In general, disgruntled Tory voters have moved for reform, but they've opened the gate for Labour. So as encouraging as it may seem, and as excited as many people across the right are getting, reform is really helping Labour to get a stronger majority. And who knows if that's not the raison d'etre. What they've also used the debates for, Sunak's not going to win. So when he says conscription or they'll cut off your bank account, presuming you're a boy of the right age, I don't know if they're going to send girls as well, I haven't heard anything about that, but they'll cut off your bank account and they'll suspend your driving license if you won't do national service. Now, I think he's saying national service might involve a number of things, but obviously it's edging towards the army. They softening people up. Germany, they're talking about conscription. Australia, they're talking about it. They're trying to get it into the public discourse, test the water, and get it into the mentality. So that's a big thing that's going on with that. Now, there's been a whole hubba-balubba, word you'll know if you listen to Gemma O'Doherty, where that came from, that he mentioned, he dared mention that there is an alternative view on the whole Russia thing. And the history of Russia-Ukraine didn't actually begin in 2022. There was a big lead-up, massively involving Victoria Nuland and her husband, Kagan, and the whole Kagan family, who have vested interests and agendas in that part of the world. Not to mention, Brzezinski had earmarked that sort of spot as a key area for leveraging power against Russia, blah, blah, blah. It's on the Silk Road, potentially. It's a key area, but we're not allowed to talk about any of those things or the interests of the Bidens through Burisma and even Mitt Romney. It goes through the Republicans and the Democrats. No, we've all got to just believe the very simplistic narrative that Putin wants to invade. And he wants to gobble up all this territory, and we need to show him strength. Yeah. Well, I'm sure people like Rachel Cohen, the 5-star general, is a massive show of strength. As far as I'm concerned with Putin, you don't interrupt your enemies when they're making a mistake. And every single policy, the corruption, the failure, the dismal failures on immigration and everything else is only causing the country to decline. So he only need step back. What does he need to invade for? The government, and particularly Starmer, are doing a wonderful job of messing up this country. Now, not only did Nigel Farage come out to speak about Putin and to put that into the public discourse, which people are now digesting, the normies who maybe haven't heard that there's an alternative viewpoint on Russia. Donald Trump also came out and said similar things on the same day. So there's some coordination going. And that's because I think that they want to edge away from that conflict and throw more weight behind Iran. Because you can guarantee that Nigel Farage, most of his supporters, particularly the Tommy Robinson Brigade and everyone who's latched onto that, from the Hopkins and the Tusis and the David Vances and all those people, plus Donald Trump and his MAGA supporters, will all get on board for a conflict against Iran, which is going to be a dreadful idea. But right now we have Israel wanting to go into Lebanon and confront Hezbollah. Hezbollah are making sounds that they'll attack Cyprus, where there are lots of British bases, if the Brits help. We know the Brits are already flying and helping with the whole Gaza thing, doing reconnaissance with special forces. They've already got really stuck in there, which is a very bad idea. That situation should be calmed down. But if Israel have a go at Lebanon, that's going to bring in America, because Israel cannot do it alone. They haven't even been successful in their campaign against Hamas. They've taken massive casualties and also deaths as well. So it's going to be difficult for them. They'll need to bring America and the UK in, and that's where Farage is going to garner support among his supporters for that, and Starmer among his. And of course, Donald Trump's mega crowd will be up for supporting Israel, and then Iran will come in to support Lebanon, and then we'll have to support a war against Iran. So you can see how that whole thing is unfolding. So it's probably all leading to a takedown of Iran. So I see that in many ways, Nigel Farage, as much as he said so many things that we can get excited about, he really is just a tool to help Labour get a bigger majority and then steer his massive support base, which he does have, huge amount of people follow and support him, to manipulate them to support maybe a war effort against Iran. In the meantime, councils are going bankrupt. Public spaces are not being mowed. In fact, Birmingham and even our local council said, forget it, no mowing of pavements, not a priority. Now, council tax goes up and up and up and up all the time. You get less and less for it. They close police stations. They don't want to collect your green bin. Or just now they won't want to collect any bin. So you wonder what you're paying for. So as everything is declining, as the sewage system and the electricity system, the gas system just cannot keep up with the influx of migration, it's a problem. Also, Nigel Farage talks about illegal immigrants, but the biggest problem is legal immigrants, which is also adding to doctors' waiting times, overloading of the NHS, and massive change to the country as a whole, which most people feel is tangibly happening, and they do want some sort of a break on it. So my prediction for the election is only Nigel and George Galloway win seats for alternate parties. I mean, other than an obscure independent, for example. I think there's one of those in Leicestershire somewhere. I think this Sherwood or something, it's an independent, so that's Galloway's constituency in the purple there. Other than those, I think Labour will romp home, but the Lib Dems will probably come in quite strong. I can see a lot of constituencies going for them. So that's my prediction at the moment. It might change before the night. Now, I wanted to recap. Now, I did a kind of controversial one of the whole Kate thing where I looked at her chart and I said basically it's a holiday, a break, and a facelift. And it kind of felt like a crazy, insensitive thing for me to have said, and I just kind of suspended that video. But I'm going to put that back up now because after seeing the trooping of the colour, kind of convinced I was right. Unless it's like a face mask and massive steroids, and no, she's looking awesome. Better than ever. Better than on her wedding day. Looked incredible, like a 25-year-old. I thought she looked really good. Thin, she's always been thin. I remember people commenting when Michelle Obama and the Obamas were over and her and William entertained. I think it was shortly after their marriage. She was very thin there. So she's always been thin. But I did feel there was the Eliza Doolittle theme, which isn't rags to riches or commoner to whatever, but it was more transformation. And I think that the dress echoed Eliza Doolittle. It also echoed the theme of transformation, relaunch, rebirth. And I think this was a massive relaunch. You know, they always say about Kylie, Madonna, why they're so successful is they know how to reinvent themselves. Yeah, they need to do it with royals as well. Know how to reinvent them, give them a fresh look, and also give them a break, pending what I think is going to happen in January, when William will become king, Charles will step aside, or he'll possibly pass on, which is also why I think Starmer called the election now. They need to have it out the way. So in January, they can bring in William. Maybe Charles passes or whatever happens, and once Donald Trump's elected, they can really get cracking on other agendas. So that's why they needed that all out the way. Okay guys, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Hope you enjoyed it.